In this video, we're going to talk about equivalent equations. I'm going to go through some steps with you in order to simplify equivalent equations. But one thing I want you to keep in mind when we're talking about equivalent equations is that basically you've got two expressions, okay? And you can think of them on a set of scales. If the set of weight scales is just like this, they must always be in balance, okay? So for instance, if you have 3 marbles on this side and 3 marbles on this side, okay, they're in balance, okay? Now the way we keep the equation in balance, so the left hand side and the right hand side, we must do the same to each side.
Are you on the internet?
So the way we can do this is by adding the same amount to both sides, subtracting the same amount to both sides, multiplying by the same amount by both sides, or dividing both sides by the same amount, okay? Now we can solve an equation algebraically, okay, by finding an equivalent equation that is simpler, and I'll show you what that means. So right now I've got 5x plus 2 equals 32. Now ultimately, we want this x by itself, okay? It's not by itself. It's being multiplied by 5 and 2 is being added. So what we can do is we'll find an equivalent equation that is simpler. So let's first get rid of this 2, okay? So 2 is being added, and the way we can get rid of it is by doing the opposite. And the opposite of adding 2 is just to subtract 2. So let's subtract 2 from both sides, okay? Again, remember, we have to do it to both sides. This means you can cross out 2 here and you can cross out 2 here. You're left with 5x. 32 minus 2 is 30, okay? Now, we still want to get x by itself. It's not by itself. It's currently being multiplied by 5. Now, the opposite of multiplying by 5 is to divide by 5. So if we divide both sides by 5, that means we can get rid of the 5 on our left-hand side, okay? Now x is by itself. So x equals 30 divided by 5 is 6. Now x equals 6 is a simpler equivalent equation, okay? Now we can check our solution, and I'll show you how to check the solution. So we'll check our left-hand side of the equation, which is just this bit here. So 5x plus 2. And we found out that x was 6. So that means whenever we see x, whenever we see x, we're going to substitute in 6. Okay? So 5 multiplied by 6 plus 2. We have to apply BODMAS here. Okay, we need to do the multiplication first. Plus 2 equals 32. Let's check that with our right-hand side, which is 32. Yes, it's the same. Okay? And so therefore our solution is correct. Let's do a few more examples together. The question says, solve the following equations algebraically. So for part A, you've got x take away 4 equals 16. Now the first part I'm going to have a look at is this. Again, we want the x by itself, so I'm going to get rid of this 4. And the way I do that is by doing the opposite, okay? The opposite of taking away 4 is to add 4. So let's add 4 to both sides. Plus 4, plus 4, okay? On the left-hand side, it can be crossed out. Now you've got x equals 16 plus 4, okay, equals 20. So therefore, the solution is 20 because 20 minus 4 equals 16. So I'm just going to write that there. Therefore, the solution is 20. Okay, the next one, part B, says 2t plus 7 equals 17. Okay, we want to get rid of the outside layer first. So at the moment, that is 7 being added. So let's do the opposite to both sides. Let's take away 7. Take away 7. We can cross this out. Now you've got 2t equals 10 because 17 minus 7 is 10. Okay, now our t is being multiplied by 2. So let's do the opposite of multiplying by 2, which is to divide both sides by 2. That means on the left-hand side, I can cross out my 2. Now I'm left with t equals 10 divided by 2, which is 5. So therefore, the solution is 5. Let's do another example for part C. 40 take away 3y equals 22. Now we're going to get rid of our outside layers first, and this time it is this 40. Now this is a positive 40 because it doesn't have a negative sign in front of it. So to get rid of it, we're going to take away 40 from both sides. So take away 40 this side, take away 40 on this side. On my left-hand side, I can cross that out. So now I'm left with negative 3y equals 22. And the reason it's negative 3y is because of the minus symbol in front here, okay? Again, our aim is to get this y by itself. So we need to get rid of that negative 3, and the way we can do that is by doing the opposite. So it's currently being multiplied. So let's divide both sides by negative 3, and make sure you include the negative there, okay? Divide by negative 3. On the left-hand side, you can cross that out. Now you're left with y. Oh, I forgot to take away 40. Here. 22 minus 40 becomes negative 18. Oops, okay. Now I'm left with y equals negative 18 divided by negative 3. So two negatives make a positive, and so y equals 6. So therefore the solution is 6, okay? If you understand those examples and you feel like you can do the questions, you can start now. But if you want a little bit more practice, I'm going to do a few more examples just down here. So again, we're talking about equivalent equations. We always need to maintain balance. So we need to make sure our scales are staying straight, so they're balanced. Okay. And the way we do that is by whatever operation we do to the left, we must also do it to the right. Okay. So I've got 4 examples here. Let's A, B, C, and D. Let's have a look at part A. X take away 3 equals 8. Now the aim is to get that x by itself. So let's firstly have a look at that negative 3 and get rid of that. So we can do the opposite operation, which is to add 3. So we've got to add 3 to both sides, right? Plus 3, plus 3. This means on the left-hand side, I can cross that out. That means I've got x by itself, and that was my aim, okay? 8 plus 3 is 11, and therefore that's our answer. Let's have a look at part B. 5x equals 15. We want that x by itself. Currently, it's being multiplied by 5, so let's do the opposite of multiplying by 5, which is to divide by 5. So I'm going to write divide by 5 and divide by 5. That means on the left-hand side, I can cross out my 5s. Then x equals 15 divided by 5, which is 3. Okay, so part C, it's like there's 2 layers to have a look at. We want to firstly get rid of the outside layer, which is that plus 4. In order to get rid of that, we need to do the opposite operation, which is to take away 4. Keep in mind we need to do to both sides. Okay, on the left-hand side, I can cross those 4s out. Now I'm left with 2x equals 14. Okay, how do I get that x by itself? I need to do the opposite operation of multiplying by 2. That's to divide by 2. So I'm going to divide both sides by 2. On the left-hand side, I can cross out my 2's. That leaves me with x by itself. 14 divided by 2 equals 7, and that's my final answer. Let's do one more example. So x over 4 equals negative 7. Okay, so currently, actually, again, we want to get this x here by itself. Okay, at the moment, it's being divided by 4. What's the opposite of dividing by 4? It's to multiply by 4. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 4. That means on the left-hand side, I can cross out my 4's. I've now got x by itself. X equals negative 7 times 4. That is negative 28. So therefore, the solution is negative 28. Okay.